If you want to start an argument with a photographer, just say something about ISO or aperture, autofocus, or even frames per second. Because for some reason, these are the camera settings that photographers obsess over the most. People will argue about ISO like their life depends on it. They will act like shooting wide open is always the right answer. They will chase faster and faster frames per second. They will change autofocus settings every time their camera misses focus. And they will spend more time worrying about white balance than they spend paying attention to light or composition. Now, some of the settings that wildlife photographers obsess over the most are often not the settings that matter the most. Now, that doesn't mean that these settings are useless, but they are often overrated because photographers treat them like magic solutions. A high frame rate will not fix bad timing or anticipation. A wide aperture will not fix a bad composition. The perfect autofocus mode will not fix poor tracking techniques. An ISO will not fix a poor exposure. And white balance isn't going to save a photo with no story, no behavior, no separation, and no impact.
But you're stronger than you know. You'll never be alone. When everything feels dark around, just look inside where light is found.
Welcome to the channel. I'm Jeff, and I'm a professional wildlife photographer living in Charleston, South Carolina. This is a place for photographers that want to learn to create better wildlife photos. Photos that are more compelling, more meaningful, and more emotional. Today's video, I want to talk about 5 of the most overrated camera settings that we have in wildlife photography. And I want to stress, this isn't because they don't matter, but because they may not matter the way you think they do. And if you stop obsessing over the wrong things, it allows you to direct your attention to where it actually belongs. On things like light, exposure, behaviors, fieldcraft, timing, composition, and making better decisions in the field. Our goal is not to always have the perfect settings. The goal is to create better wildlife photos. So let's dive in and get started. A lot of photographers hate talking about ISO. This is probably the setting that photographers love to argue about the most. But here's a difficult truth. Many people are stuck in the old school ISO beliefs, and they are very reluctant to hear anything that contradicts what they believe. Many people still believe that ISO is destroying their images. Many photographers believe you should never raise your ISO unless you absolutely have no other choice. They will look at another photographer's image and immediately ask, hey, why was your ISO so high? As we often discuss on this channel, ISO is not the real problem. Lack of light is the real problem. Poor exposure is the real problem. Underexposing your image and trying to fix it later on in editing, that is a problem. But ISO takes the brunt of the blame because it's an easy target. Many wildlife photographers capture a noisy photo and immediately think, you know what, my ISO was just way too high. If ISO is as simple as using low numbers, then why do so many photographers question why their low ISO photos are noisy? Or why do they complain that their photos look muddy and their colors are muted when they're using these lower ISO values? Photographers need to stop fearing ISO. They need to understand that lack of light is the real culprit behind noise, and good exposure is essential to quality images. If you chase low ISOs and believe you'll just fix your exposure later on in post, you're hurting your photos. This is another camera setting that many photographers love to debate because it's one of those specs that sounds really important. 10 frames per second, 20 frames per second, 30 frames per second, 120 frames per second. Add in birds in flight, fast action, takeoffs, landings, and behavior. Yes, frames per second can be absolutely helpful in all of those situations. Again, I want to stress, I'm not saying that frames per second is meaningless. If a bird takes off, more frames per second can give you more wing positions. If you're photographing a bird diving, fighting, landing, or catching prey, higher frame rates increase your chance of catching the best possible moments. But here's why it's overrated. More frames per second doesn't improve your ability to anticipate. It doesn't improve your timing. It doesn't improve your knowledge on animal behavior. It can't fix poor tracking. It can't fix bad backgrounds. It can't fix bad shooting angles. And it definitely cannot turn a boring moment into a powerful photograph. 30 frames per second of a bad moment is still the wrong moment. 30 frames per second in bad light is still bad light. Many photographers often confuse quantity with quality. Now, I've posted videos before talking about frames per second. Inevitably, someone will brag about having a camera and shooting at 120 frames per second. 120 frames per second sounds like an absolute nightmare to me. There are times when I find 30 frames per second to be too much. Think about that for a second. If you're capturing photos at 120 frames per second, and let's just say you hold the shutter down for 3 seconds, right? That's nearly 400 photos in that one moment. Do you really want to sort through 400 images to pick out the best image? I know I don't. In my opinion, that's a complete waste of time. Not to mention, you better have some high volume memory cards and plenty of hard disk space. Frames per second is a setting that becomes more valuable as you improve your field craft. The more you understand animal behavior and patterns, the better your anticipation and timing skills. When all of these things improve, frames per second becomes more valuable. Before we jump into the reasons that aperture is overrated, let's get the obvious out of the way. Aperture is important. It plays a vital role in getting good exposures. It plays an important role in our overall image quality. It's a tool we can use to add creativity to our photos. It can impact the overall look and feel of our images. But it's overrated. And if we really want to address a harsh truth here, aperture is often tied to a photographer's ego more than a creative decision. Their ego tells them, hey, this is how the pros do it. So many wildlife photographers treat shooting wide open as the automatic answer. They spend a lot of money on fast lenses so they can get the softest, creamiest backgrounds possible. And yes, sometimes blurring the background is the right choice. But wide open is not always better. And truth be told, many times aperture is used as a cop-out. Blurring the background makes just about any photo look better. But that doesn't mean it's a good photo. But blurring the background can be used when a photographer doesn't know how to include habitat or other details that may add value to the image. But you have to be careful when using a shallow depth of field. If you're photographing a flying bird at f2.8 and that bird moves closer to you or even a little further away, there's a good chance you're going to be left with a blurry photo. If you're photographing a bird with a long beak, something like a white ibis, for example, it's very likely that when using a wide aperture, part of your subject will be blurry, and this can cause a big distraction and look a little bit amateurish too. As I said a minute ago, aperture can be used creatively, but maybe it ruins the moment. If you believe you need to always shoot wide open or always blur the background, or you need to always isolate the subject, it's time to reevaluate your approach and relationship with aperture. Sometimes a shallow depth of field is the right answer. Sometimes it's not. Aperture should serve the image, not the photographer. Obviously, the autofocus area we use is important to getting sharp photos, but many photographers blame their autofocus settings for every single blurry photo. They often get caught up in the autofocus area mode they are using, and every time they get a blurry photo, they go into their settings and change it to another option. If the camera locks onto a branch, they change modes. If the bird flies through clutter, they change modes. If the subject was too small, they change modes. And eventually you find yourself spending more time second-guessing your autofocus setup than actually improving your technique. Autofocus is a partnership between you and the camera. The camera can only do so much. If the subject is tiny in the frame, the camera has less to work with. If the background is busy, it can confuse the camera. If branches are crossing the subject, the camera just may jump. If you can't keep the subject inside the focus area, the camera cannot track what you are not giving it. If your shutter speed is too slow, what looks like focus is actually motion blur. If your technique is unstable, autofocus may get blamed for your handling problems. Photographers often blame the autofocus mode before evaluating the situation. Modern autofocusing is amazing, but it's not magic. It still needs a clear target. It still performs better with a good photographer technique, and it still struggles under certain conditions, such as birds flying through trees, small animals in grass, low contrast scenes, backlighting, subjects moving towards the camera, subjects moving away from the camera, animals partially blocked or hidden behind branches. A camera can be great and still miss the image. The autofocus mode you use really depends on the subject, the background, the distance, the movement, and the camera system. When photographing birds in flight, wider tracking areas tend to work very well. And when you're photographing birds sitting in clutter, smaller focus areas or even manual focus should be used. If you're tracking erratic subjects, you might opt for more tracking flexibility. The point is that autofocus settings should be chosen based on the situation, not based on some universal rule. And here's the thing. If you're out in the field constantly changing your autofocus modes and you're missing shots, you are confused, and that is the real problem. Experiment with different modes and see how they perform. If you take 100 photos using a particular mode, how many photos are in focus? Your evaluation needs to be measurable. I shoot with the Sony A1 and I typically use 2 modes. For the majority of my images, I use the zone mode. If I'm in a situation where the subject is small or cluttered, I typically switch to the spot mode. And within the spot mode, I can even change my autofocus even further. I can make it small, medium, or large. The takeaway here is know your camera. Know when each mode works. Know when it fails. And practice so when the moment happens, you're not guessing. You're making decisions with intention. Now, I know this might sound strange because color matters a lot. White balance affects the mood of your images. It affects warmth. It affects coolness. And in wildlife, it affects feathers, fur, water, sky, and background colors. So yes, white balance matters. But for raw shooters, dialing in the correct white balance in the field is not critical. You can adjust it later on in editing without the same consequences if you were shooting as a JPEG format. If you're shooting raw images and spending time in the field worrying about white balance, you're giving too much time to the wrong thing. Again, white balance isn't irrelevant. Obviously, we don't want wildly inaccurate colors. I have always shot in RAW, and with my camera, I also just set it to auto white balance. And in the 14 years that I've been a professional photographer, I've never come across a situation that destroyed my colors. The takeaway here is don't let white balance dominate your attention in the field if you're shooting in RAW. And in editing, white balance becomes a creative decision. Do I want this image to feel warm or cool? Do I want to preserve the golden light? Or do I want to correct a certain color cast? Do I want to create a certain mood or go with something more natural? I know I've said it several times throughout this video, but I'm going to say it one more time just to be perfectly clear. I'm not saying these settings don't matter, but they in many situations are overrated, and many photographers obsess over them at the expense of focusing on other details that will actually create stronger images. And that's the bigger point. Wildlife photography is not just a settings game. It's not just numbers or picking the perfect mode. It's not about using the latest camera or copying the settings that are used by another photographer. Wildlife photography is about making decisions. We aren't photographers, we are problem solvers. If you're looking for a powerful photo editor, well, I highly recommend checking out DxO Photolab 9. This is the software that I personally use and trust for all of my photo editing, especially because of their industry-leading noise reduction and their AI masking tools that make editing faster, more precise, and more consistent. If you'd like to try it for yourself, use the link that I've provided in the show notes below. If you decide you want to purchase it, don't forget to use my discount code Magnolia at the time of checkout. This will save you 15% off. You can also download their 30-day free trial and test everything out for yourself firsthand with absolutely no restrictions. And if you really want to get the most out of Photolab, well, you need to check out my DxO Photolab Mastery Class at magnoliaphotographysc.com/store. Also a link in the show notes. But in that course, I teach you everything from how to properly apply noise reduction and sharpening and how to use those amazing AI masking tools. This course also includes some freebies, including my full DxO preset collection for wildlife, portraits, nature, and landscapes. I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy day to spend it with me to learn about some of the settings on a camera that are the most overrated. I truly appreciate you carving out this time to spend it with me. But before you go, you might want to check out this next video right here.